So how do you make money online? It's probably the number one question I get from friends and family. I have my hands in a lot of different businesses. Some I provide services, some I resell services, some I invest in startups. But to make money online is easier than you think. And I think a lot of people are just looking in the wrong direction, or they're buying snake oil salesmen's pitches and they're getting involved in MLM pitches or selling supplements or yoga pants or any of the other things that you see out there where people are trying to get you to sell to your friends and family. The stuff I'm going to talk to you about doesn't involve any of that. So let's jump into it and talk about some ways you can make money online. As I said, we're going to be reselling undervalued services. You can think of this very similar to if you're going to go to a garage sale or try to find something at like a thrift store and then try to sell it on eBay, which is a big trend back in the early 2000s. Or a probably more modern day trend with entrepreneurs is going to Alibaba, finding a new product, listing on Amazon, using their algorithm to try to rank very, very high and selling the product or service at a much lower rate. We're essentially doing that, but we're going to be doing that with services other people's services, opposed to a physical product. So the first thing you need to do before you jump into this world is you need to find a product or a service to resell. So this is going to be the hardest part for people because I think it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that you can leverage somebody else's prepackaged product or service and resell it at a higher margin. So I'll just give some examples here that I pulled up. So this is actionable user to test the website, actionable advice for user testing, I believe it's called. And you can see the prices here are really cheap, $10 to $15. And it is 279 positive reviews. So I would say this is a pretty legit service that you can resell. Anyone that has a website, you can look it over, maybe give them a few little nuggets of wisdom to say, hey, I noticed your site has some issues. I can do a full analysis for you for the low price of $250 or $500. People are more than willing. They've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on their website. You can essentially resell a service like this where they probably have it streamlined. Mr. I don't know how to pronounce that, Authentic. I guess that's a very interesting name for that man. You can essentially upcharge this because you're going to put your time, you're going to personalize it, you're going to add some other value. I'm sure if you're getting into the testing, the reason you're doing it is because you probably know a little bit about websites and what they should have. Or you can just do a little bit of industry research and add what Mr. Authentic here is going to be giving you. But by you leveraging a freelancer like this, you can do 5, 10 of these a day potentially once you dial it in, which I'm going to show you how to leverage these products and services to get it off a cheap platform like Fiverr, which I don't know if I mentioned the name, but we're on Fiverr, to take it off of a service like this and then move it to a more higher paid platform. That's the real trick. And I've been doing this for years on a lot of different products and services. So it doesn't have to just be techie. If you're in the music and you like bands, for example, and you just want to reach out to bands all day and try to talk to them, you could do something like this where it's TShirt Designs, where it's 5 stars, 79 orders, and it's a Damien 3D 5 will design you a band t-shirt, and here's the different pricing. And you can essentially resell that for a few $100s because you're going to add your passion, you're going to add some value, you're going to be talking to the bands a little bit. But at the end of the day, Damien here, who's already done 138 at least 5-star reviews, is willing to put the work in and do what needs to get done. Something a little bit more in my wheelhouse, the e-commerce websites. So everybody needs a site. There's a lot of people selling MLM and things like that. So everyone's always looking for cheap websites. I typically recommend Squarespace, but people will not want to put any time. It's totally Greek to them. They don't feel comfortable with it. So that's fine. You can pay somebody and they can maybe pay you. So you can go on here and actually, if you look around, this is $55. You could probably sell a website. I would say a minimum 250, 350. You can even make more money off of if you wanted to sell marketing after, or if you wanted to with websites and marketing and sales. There's just a lot of ways to make money with this. You could make money off hosting affiliations, doing some pay-per-click or Facebook advertising also. But just selling websites, you could probably easily sell $250 websites all day using the processes I'm going to show you. Another way is to try to use Upwork. Upwork's typically more expensive. I wouldn't really recommend it. I think Fiverr, just because everything's prepackaged, is probably the way you're going to want to go. So now let's go back to our little cheat sheet here and talk about our pro tips. Always test the services. Don't just look at a service, assume they have good reviews and think it's the best service in the world. Work with that person, run an order, spend your own money, see if the product or service is actually worth anything. Make sure that you're adding value. If the service is kind of and it's not really a professional service that's going to make them more money, you may want to think about choosing something else. And don't fall in love with your first service. Maybe test 3 services that are all kind of similar and just see what you have the most luck with. But never fall in love with the first service. Always test. Which now you found your product or service. Let's go into step 2. How do you push that product or service? How can you take a $10 service and sell it for $300, $400? One, Facebook and LinkedIn groups. This is joining groups and adding value into conversations, or creating your own groups, which we have all done over here in our office. It's pretty common. Everyone's starting their own Facebook groups, talking about niche industries or verticals. Don't just push yourself in. Nobody wants to see the guy or gal who's going in and trying to push, buy my service. But if you see an opportunity to push it, go for it, as long as it makes sense and it's in the rules. Using Duck Soup, I did a very unprofessional video on LinkedIn. If you go through my channel, and I basically was explaining to friends when Duck Soup first came out, how I was leveraging it to get a pretty decent amount of high-paying clients on large services by doing nothing more than hitting a button every morning and letting this software run. And I'll put links in all of this. So if you go look in the description, there should be links to all this. Pinterest boards, also great. They're really taking off. Building a Pinterest board that's based around the industry and maybe like the T-shirt bands example. If you have the bands, maybe you take a photo of the band and then you zoom in on their T-shirt. And that's your whole Pinterest board, is zooming in on bands' T-shirts and talking about the band's T-shirts. You will inevitably get traffic, in a lot of traffic, to your Pinterest, which will bring it to your website or your Facebook page or wherever you're trying to collect these orders, all from your Pinterest account. Online forums are great too. Get involved in the different groups that are out there. There's always there's groups. I mean, you can always go to Reddit and look at the subreddits. Usually, sometimes the channels aren't as great, but there's typically an online forum for almost everything. And again, don't spam, but you can, inside of your signature, you can include kind of usually like a little bio talking about how you do a product or service. And again, just integrate yourself in when it makes sense. YouTube is also just doing educational videos like this. Like, I'm a digital marketer, so I'm pushing out a educational video, which will hopefully come back in karma or leads or dollars or whatever. I'm not going to look to make money off advertising because that's not my strategy. I don't think that's a very hard industry to go down if you're going to try to make money off advertising on YouTube. Quick mail is probably the hardest of all these, so maybe I'm going to bold it and make it a 14 point. Quick mail is awesome, but it's also one of those things that it takes a little bit of time and effort to set up, and it's sending out emails, but it's basically a really cool way to prospect emails. And we can go here and actually take a look at the site. It's you can basically get very, very targeted lists and hit people up that are in very targeted niches and drop maybe 20 to 30 to 40 emails a day, prospecting, trying to get them to buy your product or service. You can see here it starts at about $49 a month for a basic plan. And I wouldn't think of it as spamming because it is very, very targeted, and you're not sending out millions of emails. So now let's go to the optional. Build a website. It builds your credibility. You're not just some random person, or who knows, you could be a cat or a dog emailing these people. So it's very important that you have a website that talks about your credentials and your prices, and just people feel a lot more comfortable. I would recommend building a site on Squarespace. But again, if you ever wanted to, you could go into Fiverr, get high on your own supply, and build a Fiverr. Get someone on Fiverr to build you a quick website. But I would just personally use Squarespace. And then the second option you can do here is get published as an industry leader, which is basically a way for people to just see that you know what you're talking about. You share education. I once a month or so write educational articles on different things. Oh, this is actually an older one. I just kind of Googled myself and what is this, Forbes. Crash course on growth hacking. So I'm talking about different marketing techniques and what is growth hacking. And I give all this kind of data and value. And the goal here is that I get backlinks and people can come find me. So these are not hard to do. All you need to do is give value and just reach out in all the different Facebook PR forums and PR groups and say, I have an amazing article on whatever you have an article on, and then get them to publish under their name. It is not hard to do. So that's it for the Reselling Undervalued Services. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you have questions, please post them in the comments and I will get back to you. And if you need clarification, I can always make follow-up videos on any one of these. I try to keep it as high level as I possibly could, but I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.